Okay, let's go ahead and get started. This is our kickoff webinar for the ProLiteracy Learning Upgrade Challenge. We're starting our new cycle uh, coming up. I am Todd Evans. I'm the Director of Professional Development for ProLiteracy. We are also going to have, doing most of the presentation, Vinod Lobo from Learning Upgrade. He's the founder and CEO, and Drew Robinson, who is the sales director for Learning Upgrade. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about, give you an overview of the challenge, and then they're going to talk to you about Learning Upgrade and things in more detail. So just a little bit about the challenge. The challenge is, what it does is it follows students and teachers over a 4-month-long trimester, kind of matches the adult education calendar, and during each cycle, new folks can come in and you get training for the instructors to show instructors how to start a classroom, enroll students, those sorts of things. And then the learners work on the lessons that are going to meet their individual needs for that 4-month period. As instructors, you get to track their progress to kind of monitor and motivate students. And then the challenge rewards the top providers, instructors, and learners in each cycle. And Drew's going to talk a little bit more about what those metrics are. And Drew also is going to announce the winners of the last cycle, the providers, the instructors, and the learners. Just a little bit about some testimonials from folks. So our top program from cycle 1 said they really enjoyed using Learning Upgrade. It really fit with learning needs. That didn't feel like, some of the students who didn't feel like their other learning programs were helping. The top instructor, Sherilyn Suggs from Detroit, Michigan. She said they really had learners embrace the Learning Upgrade app with motivation and determination like never before. And I think as you listen to Drew and Vinod talk about Learning Upgrade and showing you the features of it, I think you'll see why it's a great learning platform and very motivating. She talked about tutors are able to guide and support learners because they're able to see the challenges they're facing from moment to moment. A little bit about the prizes. So for the top program and top instructor, you can choose from one of the following options. You can get up to 100 student licenses if you're the winner, which is a $5,000 value. It's provided by Learning Upgrade. And you can get Southwest airline vouchers for a round trip ticket or a $200 New Readers Press gift card. And then the top students can get a Southwest airline voucher or a $200 Visa gift card. And there are 3 student categories: hours, number of hours on the app, number of lessons completed, I think, and number of certificates earned. And then for more information, you can visit our website to enroll. You fill out the form on the bottom of the page. And if you're a new user and you require a trial, we'll send you an email from New Readers Press once your trial is started. And that trial period lasts the period of the this cycle. And then you can kind of sign up for additional licenses to continue. We've also developed on our page, and Vinod, thank you for posting the link to that web page in the chat. So if you guys want to go there and get more information and see the form, you can do that now. But we've also added on that page some video tutorials about how to create an email and how to download the Learning Upgrade app and get started. These are great videos that show you instructors how to do it, but also that you can share with students to kind of walk them through the process. So now I am going to turn things over, I believe, to Drew and let him share his screen.
Thank you. All right. All right, so my name's Drew with Learning Upgrade. I'm joined by founder and CEO of Learning Upgrade, Vinod Lobo. And he's going to start out by just introducing the Learning Upgrade Challenge. Todd did a great job of outlining, how it works, some of the prizes that are available. But I'm just going to have Vinod come on and give you a brief intro as to why we started this challenge and partnering with ProLiteracy on it.
Okay, hi, thank you. This is Vinod. And the reason we started the Learning Upgrade Challenge with ProLiteracy is very simple. We want to transform the lives of 1 million adult learners. And how we do that is with you, the adult ed community, literacy centers, community colleges and adult schools, literacy programs. And why are we doing it? 36 million adults in the United States are low literacy, third grade level or below in reading. But only 5% are right now in adult ed. So 95% are unserved, are basically not getting anything to help them. And 72% of those will transfer this illiteracy to the next generation. It's a big problem with unemployment and with children. So the purpose of the challenge is fairly simple. We determined through the Adult Literacy X Prize that smartphones are the whole key to scalability. If you can encourage your learners to enroll in Learning Upgrade, and then you can track their progress, and they can do this remotely, in addition to working with you when classes open up again, then we can scale up and serve so many more learners, and they can use these smartphones to just do a whole lot of hours. So I'm going to let Drew get into the details of how the challenge works. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Vinod. Yeah, and Todd did a great job of outlining exactly how the challenge works. I'm just going to give you just a quick overview on it. Our goal is, again, building on what we learned from winning the Adult Literacy X Prize and setting out to reach these 36 million adults who need math and literacy skills. So this is how each challenge works. So this is the ProLiteracy Challenge, and adult education providers can enter this challenge. The learners, our end users with Learning Upgrade, are going to complete lessons, logging hours on our English, math, and digital literacy courses, and then everybody has an opportunity to win a prize. As Todd mentioned, the learners can win prizes, the instructors can win prizes, and then the top achieving education providers can also win prizes. Right now, we're going to be launching our third cycle. So our first one, the Learning Upgrade Challenge first launched in January. That was our first cycle from January to April. We just finished up our May to August cycle, and now we're going to begin the final cycle of 2020, which is going to go from September all the way until the end of the calendar year on December 31st. So everyone joining the Learning Upgrade Challenge through ProLiteracy right now is going to have access to a Learning Upgrade license from now until December 31st. And all of your activity is going to count towards these prizes within this cycle. So what I want to do now is, before we get into Learning Upgrade, is announce the semester winners. So we announced the winners 4 months ago for the first cycle, and just take a quick look at who won for the summer semester. So our top program is new. It's going to be East Baton Rouge Parish, and it's really incredible what they were able to do. They logged over 1,000 hours as a site, completed 3,400 lessons, and the most important thing is they, earned 47 certificates. 47 certificates means that was the number of entire Learning Upgrade courses that were completed. So for those of you that aren't familiar, I'll be getting into it a little bit later, but every single Learning Upgrade course is 60 lessons. Those 60 lessons take anywhere from 20 to 30 hours to complete. And each one of those lessons for English is, aligned to an NRS level. And so for some of our learners, they're completing 2 or 3 Learning Upgrade courses, 3 certificates. That's 3 NRS levels in a summer. And so that's really the power that you're starting to see with Learning Upgrade and having access to these courses on a smartphone, is that we're radically increasing the rate of learning and shortening the amount of time that they have to take from their starting point to proficiency, and then meeting those goals that they have in life. Our top instructor is Jacqueline Jones Love of Siena Literacy Center. Over 1,000 hours there, over 3,000 lessons, and 33 certificates. And so it was really close between EBR for East Baton Rouge and Siena Literacy for the program. But East Baton Rouge just had a few more of the lessons and the certificates, which is where they edged out Siena Literacy Center. And then the top students, we're still working on getting clearance for their names. So right now, just going to use initial for the highest achieving learner, and that's going to be a student from East Baton Rouge. And this is really probably the most incredible student story we've seen in the challenge, which is fairly young, 2 semesters in. But for one learner in a semester to log almost 300 hours, 855 lessons, and 14 certificates, is pretty shocking for us. The amount of time spent on a learning upgrade course. And again, to be able to finish 14 learning upgrade lessons, if you're going from our English 1 to English 5, you're going from an NRS level 1 to an NRS level 5. This student also worked on our digital literacy, so improving skills for the workforce, learning about computers and coding, and we'll be getting into some of our course content a little bit later. And then also the math. So going from a math 5 and working math 5 all the way up into pre-algebra and then getting ready to start algebra, this story for this student is really incredible. And we're really excited to reach out and learn more about how they're using Learning Upgrade and how it's impacted their life. So these are the second semester winners. We'll be announcing, do a little email announcement in the future for them. And also hopefully get more information on the top 3 students. Even though this student from East Baton Rouge was the top student for hours, lessons, and certificates, we'll be selecting them as a winner for 1. And then that way 2 other students, the next highest number of lessons and certificates, can also win. Okay, so what is Learning Upgrade? And I want to get started on the Learning Upgrade program. But before I do, I just want to let you know, if you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A, and Vinod and I will be able to get to those throughout the presentation, and then we'll also be able to answer some of those live in the breaks and also at the end. Vinod has provided a link to the ProLiteracy Learning Upgrade Challenge sign-up form. So if you haven't already joined, if you're not currently a Learning Upgrade license holder, make sure you click that link and scroll down to the bottom. You'll see a form where you can get signed up. And then as Todd mentioned, you'll also find a lot of information on getting started, best practices, and some documentation on assistance there. So let's jump into what is Learning Upgrade. So Learning Upgrade is really 2 parts. There's the Learning Upgrade student app, that's what your students use. And then there's the Learning Upgrade LMS. So on the student side of things, we have 22 courses with over 1,000 lessons. And those, 1,020 lessons have tens of thousands of practice questions. So your learners are going to start at their current level in math, English, or digital literacy. And then they'll be able to get started with the lessons. Each one of those lessons uses engaging songs, video, and animation to teach. And then once they get the instruction in the app, then they're going to have those tens of thousands of interactive practice questions where they'll be able to hone their skills. Students can learn anywhere, so they can learn in class, they can learn on site when your schools eventually open up. Hopefully they will be in the not too distant future, and then at home. And that's really, again, for the Learning Upgrade Challenge and Learning Upgrade as a platform is really where we're shining. This remote learning transition in adult ed and in education everywhere, has made a lot of our education providers say, hey, we really need a reliable, functional, and most importantly, validated and proven solution. And so we've added hundreds of adult education providers just in the last few months because of this need. And then while your students are completing these lessons, we have the continuous assessment reports for each instructor and admin through the Learning Upgrade LMS. So this is what the app looks like for a student. They're going to get started. I'll show you how they can self-enroll and create their accounts in a bit. But first I want to show you what the student app looks like. So your student's going to create an account. They'll start out at their current level, and we like to show them all of our courses right off the bat. And this is something that's important, especially for students like the winner of the ProLiteracy Challenge that might be starting out at a lower level, but they can see that path ahead. So let's say they take the English assessment and, okay, I'm on English Upgrade 1. I know I'm at that NRS level 1, but I see that Learning Upgrade has that path ahead of me. And so you'll see at the top of the screen, we call, what we've developed as binge learning. And it's very similar to the binge watching that people do on YouTube or Netflix. And what we've done is we've really tried to make sure that, we don't just tap into the gamification of things in the gameplay, but we also want to, focus in on some of the design elements and cues in social media that our students are used to. And so think about the last time you logged into YouTube or Netflix and you decided to watch a new channel on YouTube, or you decided to start a new season of a TV show on Netflix. Investment in content is important. So if you start out a new show and it was made 10 years ago and you see that there's only one season, the likelihood that you're going to invest your time in that's not very high. What you want to see is either something that's recent, something that's current, or if it is something that is a little bit older for a show, that maybe they have 10 full seasons and there was a season and series finale for that final one. And there you feel good about investing your time. And that's how our learners feel when they log into Learning Upgrade. They say, hey, you know what? I'm starting out on my season 1, my English 1 or my math 1. And I know I might be at a lower level now, but if I stick with this app when I'm finished, I'm going to be at an NRS level 5, or I'm going to be proficient with algebra. I'm going to be, completely solid with digital literacy and have all the skills I need for the workforce. And so that's really where you see the power of our courses. And we do the same thing when you look at our lesson screen. So for example, we go from the courses, we're going to click on our active course, and here we're going to jump to English Upgrade 5. So we show our learner all 60 lessons. Again, they see that path ahead. They're starting out on lesson 1, and they're going to work their way up through lesson 60. So the way the courses work is 1 through 59 are the content courses, and then 60 is the final challenge. That's going to be the only timed lesson for an entire course. So starting out on lesson 1, I'm going to click details. As soon as I click that lesson, then the instruction's going to start. We teach using songs, animation. We grab your learner's attention. Again, our goal is to facilitate that binge learning, making sure we grab attention and keep your learners engaged. After the instruction, now comes the practice questions. And all of our practice questions are going to be, individualized and provide instant remediation and feedback for when your learners do get things incorrectly. And that's really one of our main goals for this. Is what we don't want to see is a situation where your learners are just using a workbook and answering multiple choice questions, and all of a sudden they get something wrong. They might be able to go to the back of the book and they can't figure it out. In remote learning, we're seeing a lot of frustration on the student side for tools that are being used that don't offer that instant remediation. So for Learning Upgrade, if they get a question wrong, the voice is going to come on, the narration is going to walk them through it. They're going to see why they got it wrong, and we're going to show them how to answer it correctly the next time. And so this is the learner engagement. So you'll see on the left an example of what the instruction looks like. Again, it's animated. We're going to walk them through it. There's going to be a narrator. We're going to make sure they have all of the instruction they need for this content area. And then on the right, you're going to see the gameplay. So this is a volume of a rectangular prism. And again, this is something that's very difficult to teach in a workbook, especially when you're not there in the classroom with your student. Learning Upgrade, our platform, this is what we excel, and this is where we specialize, is your learner is answering these questions. They get to see the formula, and we get to instantly change colors if they get it wrong. So they see in the formula, okay, green, I got those right. Red, I got those ones incorrect. Well, the narration is going to come on now. We're going to drag and drop the correct answers in the right place. We're going to tell them which ones they got incorrect. We're going to walk them through the formula and make sure they understand how to answer it correctly the next time. From there, the system moves them back a little bit. And so we're going to give them an easier question, let them work on those fundamentals until they scale up and work on the more complicated ones later. So while they're doing that, you see we're in the gray circle at the top at 0%. your learners need to answer questions correctly to accumulate points. And they need to do so at 75% or better to move on to the next lesson. So you'll see here we're on Math Upgrade 5, level 54. We have 0 points. We need to get 100 points to move on, and those 100 points have to be at 75% or better. So that's the way the in-game play works, and every single lesson is set up that way, 100 points and above 75%, and that's what's going to earn a bronze medal. If they get 90 to 94%, that'll be a silver medal, and then 95 to 100%, that'll be a gold medal. Once they finish all 60 lessons in a course, that's when they earn those certificates. So when I was mentioning the learner from East Baton Rouge that earned those 14 certificates, what they were able to do is finish 14 courses here, and you see how much content that is. Every single one of our courses has 60 lessons, including that final challenge at the end. So 14 total courses were completed in that semester. And again, that binge learning, this is something that just wasn't really possible on any platform that doesn't involve the mobile option. You know, smartphone and tablets, to be able to work on this in the morning, to be able to work on this after you eat dinner. Maybe you're used to going on Instagram and Facebook before you go to bed, and now you're going through 4 or 5 learning upgrade lessons. So Learning Upgrade is available everywhere. You know, we tend to talk about it as the student app, and it is an application you can download on iOS, Apple devices, iPhone, and iPad. It's available through the Play Store on Android devices, and then you can also access it on the web through a browser. So on a Chromebook, laptop, desktop, you can go to learningupgrade.com, click login, and you can launch the student app from a browser. So pretty much any web-enabled device that your students have, they'll be able to access their Learning Upgrade account. And while your students are completing those lessons and making progress, you'll be able to log into the Learning Upgrade LMS, track and monitor all of that activity, and see how your students are doing in real time. So even if you're not able to sit with your student in a classroom, if you're a tutor or an instructor that's used to working with them one-on-one, you can see everything they're doing in real time. You can see where they're performing strongly. You can see where they're having difficulty. And then when you want to target your intervention, maybe you have 30 minutes to 45 minutes of Zoom time with a learner. You can go to your Learning Upgrade reports and say, okay, I already know, these 2 lessons they struggled on, and then you can form your intervention around that. And that way, time is precious right now. We're not able to meet with students as much as we're used to, and this really allows you to target how you do that. So, why Learning Upgrade? We have 22 great courses, over 1,000 lessons, tens of thousands of practice questions. Students love it. But really, when it comes down to it, for instructors and for admins, Learning Upgrade is an option that really helps you with ABE, HSE, college readiness, and employability. And it's able to do this with one app. And so, everybody's used to having to piecemeal this, where you have some workbooks here, you have another online program to address math, you have maybe another one for your English, and then you do another for your really low literate or pre-literate students. And what Learning Upgrade allows you to do is, adopt one program, learn one program, and deploy one program, and really meet the needs of a very wide range of your students. So the way we address adult basic ed, you can see how we do that with our math and English. So for those levels K to 3, that ABE 1, we have 480 lessons. And this again is one app where your learners that are at that ABE 1, they could be there for math and English. They can be simultaneously working on math 1 and English 1, all at home on their mobile devices. You can also, see how all of their progress maps up. So as I was mentioning at the beginning, for a learner that completes 14 certificates, finishes 14 Learning Upgrade courses, that student worked on English Upgrade 1 through 5. So you can see where they went. They started out at an NRS level 1, and that's 60 full lessons. And then they worked all the way through from English 1 to English 5. So they started the summer at an NRS level 1, and they finished the summer at an NRS level 5. And again, this is with very limited classroom interaction, very limited teacher interaction, and through a smartphone app, logging, again, an unusual almost 300 hours. Not a lot of learners are able to do that, but you see that when you do put the time in, our formula is simple. Time on task is going to give students improvement. And so if they're able to put the time in to finish the Learning Upgrade course, finish an English Upgrade 1, they're going to see an NRS level jump. And for those that are able to put a lot of time in, they're going to see a very dramatic acceleration in their improvement there. So we also have, all of our CASAS correlations here. And again, these links, these PDFs that you're seeing for our alignment tables, for our CASAS correlations, these are available online. We can share links to these in the chat. Don't want to go too in depth here, other than to say that all of our courses are aligned to the standards. So for HSE, we have our GED and HiSET. And so, we have our math K through 8 and then algebra. But for those that are getting ready for the GED test or HiSET test, we have these condensed courses, 60 lessons, where we're going to dramatically and quickly take your learner and get them ready for these tests. We also, are a tool for college readiness. So you'll see that our, 1,000+ lessons are aligned to the CCRS standard. As I showed in the engagement part, we use rigorous problem-solving activities, make sure that your learners are using critical thinking and that it isn't just a memorization, guess game with a few multiple choice. Our learners really have to think and get engaged with our lessons. We teach writing techniques for college level work, and we really want to make sure that your students are prepared for those college entrance exams. We do have those CCRS standards in PDF format. So if you'd like to see how our courses align there, those are available as well. And then finally, one of the main reasons we're seeing a lot of adoption over the last few months is our newest course, which is digital literacy. And digital literacy is fully aligned to the ISTE and North Star standards. And this is really helping our learners with those foundational skills for employability. Some things we probably take for granted, a lot of us, we have smartphones, we have computers, maybe multiples, and our daily lives kind of center around right now, webinars, and we are emailing back and forth. And, most of us are of an age where we have been using text message long enough to know the etiquette and, the right language to use when addressing certain audiences. So the way I text message my boss is different than the text message that I send to my friend or to a family member. And so these digital literacy skills are really becoming the foundation of what your learners need to go on and get a job. And we cover it all, so we start out with the computer basics, move up through teaching them about spreadsheets and documents, coding and programming, all the way through job searches and travel. And so we have the digital literacy, which is available now. This is our latest course. We actually launched this during the last semester. So the semester started in May, and we just launched this new course towards the end of April. And so we were, really enthusiastic about the course, but we're blown away by the adoption. The number of students that added it to their account, the teachers that added it to their students' accounts without us even prompting or making it known that it was available, let us know how important it was, but also how much our learners and how much our teachers needed a course like this. So before we move on, I want Vinod to just come back on and just talk a little bit about this new course, kind of our thinking around why we needed to launch this at this time, and how it's gonna kind of mesh into how you're working at your sites.
Thanks, Drew. So yeah, we're really excited. We worked 2 years on digital literacy, and the whole idea behind it is that this will be alongside our English, math, and our GED HiSET courses, and we'll fill in all those gaps in digital technology that people have that are stopping them from success in the workplace and in academics. So we're covering everything from devices and data, content creation, communication, security, privacy, citizenship. The reading level required is roughly NRS level 5. Actually, a little bit lower is what we're finding in the field. But you want to have a high enough reading level to be able to answer some of these critical thinking questions. And it's available already right now, web, Android, iOS. So what makes it different? A couple of things. First of all, most digital literacy that's been taught to date is taught in a very dry kind of format of text and multiple choice questions. Ours is high interest, engaging. We got songs, we got video, we got interactive games where we simulate, let's say, Google Docs or editing a video. Right after you get something wrong, there's a voice, there's animation, there's remediation. We cover mobile and smartphone and the cloud extensively. A lot of the older digital literacy content was very computer, mouse, Microsoft Word oriented. Also, we cover the general concepts, such as citizenship, safety, privacy, and etiquette. And we're aligned to both ISTE and North Star standards. For those who are familiar, North Star is more the nuts and bolts. Do you know how to use a mouse? Do you know how to turn on the computer or create a Word document? ISTE is more conceptual, so that you understand cloud documents or you understand privacy. So they're going to go through 60 lessons, and you're going to get extensive reporting to show where they are in the course. So I want to go through the 60 lessons just quickly. We start with the basics of computers and networks and smartphones. We get into trust and validity, fake news, things like sharing versus sending, spreadsheets, documents, graphics, video editing. A favorite level is coding and programming, because very few people really understand the software development process. And then we get into communication, email, text messaging, what's a hashtag and a handle. How do you deal with video conferencing in this day and age, and Zoom conferences, net etiquette. And then we get into safety. So how can you protect your devices? How can you protect your digital identity, passwords, and dealing with strangers? And then finally, we get into being a great digital citizen. So advocacy, engagement, the digital economy, the different type of jobs available now on digital, and then technology like AI, VR, and then Alexa, things like that. So I wanted to show you one lesson from digital literacy before we move on. This is documents, so Google Docs, Microsoft Word. And we'll just play through little snippets of the lessons.
Word processing programs, such as Google Docs or Microsoft Word, allow users to create a digital file called a document or doc file. Documents contain text and images. Some examples are essays, flyers, or reports. Let's process some word processing basics.
To create a new document, first choose File New. Type in the file name. The next thing to do, let's look at the ribbon from left to right. Undo your changes, redo them to right. Change the font to make your text look good. Font size changes, the letter size as it should.
Select the answer. Perfect. Answer this question.
All right, so you got to see a little bit of the lesson, some of the practice questions, and that's how all of our courses are start out. They have the instruction with the song, and then the practice questions come after. So now what I want to do is focus on how you can get started as a provider and what that process looks like in today's reality. A lot of our schools are not open. For those that are, you're in a hybrid model where maybe some learners come in, some are online. We're still figuring things out. But the nice thing is Learning Upgrade is set up to make sure that any classroom, however your plans are, whether it's fully remote, hybrid, or eventually when we're 100% back to normal and students are coming into the classroom, you can use Learning Upgrade to get going. So first thing you'll want to do, as we mentioned before, is click that link in the chat, go to ProLiteracy's website, and you can see here on the challenge page, we have those videos on the right, some documentation, best practices on getting started. You'll see that blue button, join the challenge. It'll take you to the bottom of the page. There'll be a form there you can fill out. And then once we receive your submission form, we'll be able to get you set up with a Learning Upgrade pilot. And again, this pilot's going to be good from now all the way until the end of the calendar year, December 31st, for new programs. For programs that already have a Learning Upgrade license, if you're one of our paid customers that has an annual license, again, all of your activity does count. So if you already have a license, don't worry about that. All of your activity does count for the challenge. So let's take a look at how we kind of structure our training. So number one is the teacher training. That's what we're doing today, the information sessions. How do I get started? And in that training, we want to focus on, the most critical component for remote learning is number two now, that's student onboarding. Before we used to be able to work on student onboarding in a bunch of different ways. Our learners were in the classroom. We could use our whiteboard. We could walk to their desk and walk them through it. For literacy centers, we could have our tutors meet one-on-one with students and walk them through it. Now we have to really rely on student self-enrollment. So we've made this as straightforward as possible to make sure that we can send you one email, you can forward one page to your learner, and they can self-enroll in a 5-10 minute session. We've streamlined this, due to the X Prize where we had to onboard 10,000 learners, and we quickly learned, some best practices on how we can make sure that everybody that needs to get enrolled with Learning Upgrade can do so quickly. Once your learners are onboarded and completing lessons, you'll be able to log into the LMS. And that's step number 3. How do I motivate and track my learners? And then step number 4 is the challenge. So how do we celebrate student success? We obviously can do it internally by making a big deal of those certificates, making sure we reach out to our learners that are logging hours at difficult times. Maybe they switch jobs, they're logging Learning Upgrade time at, 10 at night, 2 in the morning. We can celebrate that way. And then for those that are the top in their groups, through this challenge, they have those Southwest vouchers when we're able to travel again. But right now, those Visa cards. And then, of course, for the instructors and the education providers, free Learning Upgrade licenses. So let's take a look at how do we have our students self-enroll using a class code. So all of you either currently have a Learning Upgrade license, or you click that link and you already have or will be filling out that form to get started for the ProLiteracy Learning Upgrade Challenge. Once we get that form, you'll be receiving an email, and that email where it's going to walk you through every step you need to get started. But the very first content block you see here at the top is for student self-enrollment. And you'll see it says students can self-enroll into your Learning Upgrade class code. And then each one of your sites and instructors is going to have their own unique class code. And this is how your students directly enroll into your class. You'll see that there's a link here, class code sheet. First thing you'll want to do is click on that class code sheet. And if you're in a smartphone, tablet, or if you're on your computer in a browser, that'll open up. And it'll look exactly like this. So we're going to have the class code that's in your email displayed large. And this is going to be what you want to share with your students. There'll be a button at the top of this where you can toggle it into Spanish. So if you'd like to have an English version and a Spanish version, you can do that. But the goal for instructors, once they get to this class code guide, is if you're on your phone to do a screenshot. If you're on your computer, you can save it as a PDF. And then what you'll want to do is take it and distribute this to your entire class. So you can do that via text, you can do that via email, or if you're using a platform already, a Blackboard, a Google Classroom, you can attach it there on a message board and request that your learners all go through the steps. So what I want to do now is walk through what it looks like as a learner to go through the steps once I receive this class code guide, so you can see how easy it is for them to get started. So let's say my instructor Vinod got the email, downloaded this class enrollment guide, and then sent it to me as an email. So I open it up. Step number one is I download the Learning Upgrade app. So I can go to the App Store, I can go to the Play Store, or I can go to learningupgrade.com and click login. Step number two is I'm going to launch the app. So I launch the app on my iPhone, and this is the first screen that I get. So now I'm going to follow the next step and click Get Started. After clicking Get Started, I get to select the course that I'm going to start with first. So do I want to start with English? Do I want to start with math? Or do I want to start with digital literacy? In this case, I'm going to go with digital literacy. Now we're on the most important part of the instructions here. So I'm going to enter my first name, my last name, and then you'll see on the right there the class code. And so you'll see on our class code guide, it's the very top, big and bold. So I'm going to enter that code into the class code field here. The student ID is voluntary. They can enter an email or phone number, but the critical part is to make sure I enter that class code. And that's how the system knows to take this account creation and add it to your teacher account. After clicking go here, the app is going to show me my username, password, and school ID. And this is important for a lot of our learners that might be sharing devices right now. Maybe they have a prepaid phone and they might have a new one soon. With this username, password, and school ID, your learners can log in on any web-enabled device and have access to this account, pick up right where they left off. Don't worry if they forget it or don't write it down, take a screenshot. With your teacher account LMS, you can always log in and retrieve this information. Now they're going to see the courses screen and the very first course that they enrolled in this case, digital literacy. If I'd like to add other courses, I can click on any grayed out icon and click to add course. But the key thing to focus on with your students when you're getting them started on this stage is to request that they set aside a solid 30 minutes. Now you say, well, it only takes 5-10 minutes to get started. Why did they need 30? So our goal is to always make sure that they're completing a few lessons when they first create their account and get started. And this is no different than what you'll see if you're recommending a YouTube channel or a Netflix show to your friends. If all you do is open up Netflix and look at the show description on your phone, the likelihood that you're going to go back to that show isn't very high. What you want to do is, hey, that show sounds great. I opened up Netflix, I watched the pilot, I watched the first 2 or 3 episodes. Now I'm hooked. Now I'm binge watching. And from that point on, even if my friend never mentions the show, I'm going to keep watching it. Very similar for binge learning. So we want those learners to create their account, add their first course, and complete a few lessons. And once they get those first 2 or 3 lessons under their belt, the binge learning begins. And as an instructor, I can just sit back and monitor that activity. So my learners have created their accounts. They've completed those first few lessons. They're binge learning. Now what do I do? So now what I want to do is I can go back to that exact same email. First thing I did was have my students self-enroll. Second block is now I can track my class and student activity. So we provide detailed instructions in the email on the best reports you'll want to use. But for this presentation, I just want to give you a quick overview of what they look like and how you use them. But you'll see here, step number 1 is sign in. Step number 2, we show you the quick reports and account revisions. Step number 3 is the in-depth reports. All of that's there in your email. We also have images on all these reports and how to access them on our support page. But let's take a look at, kind of the greatest hits here. First one is the student monitor. And this one you'll want to look at in real time. So if you know your learners are working throughout the day and you're at home, you can pull up the student monitor in a tab and you'll see your learners' lessons being completed in real time. Each one of these tiles represents a lesson. We'll abbreviate the course they're in on the left. So everyone here is in English Upgrade 1. Their names will display. And as I mentioned, every Learning Upgrade course has 60 lessons. We'll display those from left to right. If they earn a certificate by completing an entire course, we'll display those. You can click on those to print them off, save them as a PDF, share them on Google Classroom or whatever platform you're using, and make a big deal out of it and celebrate their success. But what you really want to focus on is if you see red on any of those, that means the learner didn't get 75% or better. So when you hover over these tiles in real time, a pop-up will display will let you know the name of the lesson, the number of times your learners have attempted that lesson, and then also their score. So if you see they attempted it one time and got 72%, no problem, they'll play it again and pass. But if you hover over and it says, hey, they've attempted this 7 times, their high score is a 48, then you might want to reach out to that learner and see if they want to work on that one-on-one, set up a time on Zoom, phone call, and that allows you to target your intervention. So that's red squares, first thing you want to look at. Second thing is if you see a student falling behind. So in this case, third from the top is falling behind, but most of that lesson is gold. Not much I need to do. That seems like a time on task issue. I can just reach out and see maybe they started a new job, they're having difficulty, maybe they have 3 kids and they're trying to get them online for, their online learning. That's okay. That's an easy one to fix. Third from bottom, that's a different case. It looks like, hey, they're falling behind, but the reason is because they're getting bronze on everything. Maybe they're having to play each lesson 4 or 5 times, spend a lot of time to move from one to the next. And that's an issue where you can reach out and maybe enroll them in the previous course. So if they're struggling with English 1, let's enroll them in EK. If they're struggling on Math 5, maybe they need to go back to Math 4 and work on those foundations. So with this report student monitor, again, red tiles and then students falling behind. Once you find that area where the student's struggling, every single one of our courses has an individualized course report. So at the top, we're going to give you subject area scores. This is our new digital literacy. So we'll let you know how they did on devices, content creation, technology. If you're in math, depending on the math course, you'll see subject area scores there. Same with the English. So the subject area scores are different based on the course, but it's a quick way to get an overview on how they're doing. Then you'll see the graph below. We'll show you their initial score in blue and their high score in orange. So this lets you see where a student maybe didn't do so well on their first attempt, but made improvements. Maybe they got a 0, a 40, a 50, and you can see where they filled in those gaps. As an instructor, you just want to keep an eye out for valleys that haven't been filled in. That's subject area that they struggled with and then didn't repeat to mastery. So they might need to go back and spend some more time there. If you scroll to the bottom, we'll give you all of that data in a table. Key thing to focus on here is minutes played and times played. So that first one, you'll see they had to play 4 times. They spent 21 minutes, not so much time, eventually got to a 95%. You want to keep an eye out for 8 times played, an hour, 2 hours, times played, and their high score is still low. We also give you, tracking for your class, or if you're an admin, you can track an entire site. So if you want to track multiple teachers, or if you're a higher level admin and you need to track multiple sites, all of that's available. We won't be covering it today, but we do have admin reporting. For teachers and instructors, this is our student progress report by date. And this allows you to select a start date and an end date, depending on your reporting needs. And we'll give you all of the learning upgrade activity and time on task in this handy table. So you'll see the total amount of hours they spent in that time frame, the total number of lessons they completed, and if they were bronze, silver, or gold when they completed those. We'll also let you know the number of certificates that were earned. By default, we're going to show you every single student course on a row, but if you're an English teacher and your student's also working on math, you can just say, show me the English. If you're a math teacher, just show me the math. Or if you're an admin and you're not really concerned with the courses they're in, just the total time on task, maybe for a distance learning requirement, then you can just say all by student, and we'll sum it all up for you in one neat row and give you just the total time on task for each learner. Now, our most popular report right now for distance learning is our student session time report. So this is similar to our student progress report by date that I just showed you. But for this one, instead of each course and the aggregate data, we're going to show you every single session with subtotals. So you can set a start date and an end date for this one as well. But then for each student in that time frame, we're going to let you know every session that they logged on our servers. So when it started, when it ended, the course, the name of the lesson, and also important is the device that they're using. So if you need to target your intervention and your time on when you want to work with this learner, when you want to call or email or set up a Zoom session, you can see when they're logging into Learning Upgrade and let that influence your decision. Now, what we're also seeing is that our hottest time on the server is usually about 10 p.m. to 3 or 4 a.m. Again, I'm not awake at that time. Most of you probably aren't. But for our learners, this is where their learning happens. If they have a full-time job, they have a family, this might be the only time that they have to work on the skills that they need. And so we do see a lot of that. Maybe the kids go to bed, I'm laying in bed, and instead of opening up Facebook, at 12 a.m. now, I'm working on my math skills. I'm working on my English skills. So the student session time report as well, you'll be able to see how they're spending that time. Then once you monitor and track all of their activity, now it's time to celebrate student success. So again, I mentioned you can do that internally by printing off and saving those certificates, posting them if you have an internal social media, maybe you use WhatsApp, or maybe you have a Classroom, Google Classroom message board that you can send that to, or maybe you have a group email. Make a big deal out of it, celebrate your winners, especially in these times where you can't do that in a classroom setting with parties and things like that. It means a lot to our learners when they do accomplish something, that there are people that see it. And then of course, there's the ProLiteracy rewards that Todd was able to walk us through at the beginning. And so again, all these prizes will be available for this semester challenge as well. We'll be awarding the top program, and that'll be based on the hours, the lessons, and the certificates earned. The same criteria for the top instructor. So an instructor with a class will look at the total number of hours, lessons, certificates. And then for students, in this one, we had the same student have the high for the hours, lessons, and certificates. But for those below that, we'll take one winner for each and see who the winners are. And then also for fall, we want to focus on these, personal impact stories. So maybe there's a learner who, wasn't able to log the most hours, lessons, or earn a bunch of certificates. Not everybody is able to log those, 100, 200, 300 hours in a semester, but maybe Learning Upgrade still had a huge impact on their life. Maybe they just finished one Learning Upgrade course and it was the GED math. And that was the one thing holding them back from that next step in their life. And we want to hear that story, and we want to make sure that they can be rewarded for those. So we'll be sending out an email in the next month or so in the middle of this project. Once your learners get started, log some hours. We can see how Learning Upgrade is impacting their education and their lives. And we want to hear those stories from your learners. So Claire asked, what are the prizes? And so Todd walked through those at the beginning. But for the programs and instructors, on our side, we're donating Learning Upgrade courses, 100 of them. So that's a $5,000 value. And then there's also Southwest round trip vouchers. I know that's probably not something a lot of people are going to choose right now. It's a $400 value just because travel isn't opened up everywhere yet. And then there's those gift cards, those $200 Visa gift cards, and those are available as well. So answered that one live for you, Claire. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to use the Q&A for those. We have 5 minutes still here to go through those. But again, in closing, I just want to make sure anybody that didn't click the link that Vinod shared in the chat to sign up for the ProLiteracy Learning Upgrade Challenge, and make sure you do that now. We have a huge response for the challenge and for our pilots and our licenses, as sites and instructors are scrambling for validated resources that they can use at their site for this fall semester. So I want to make sure all of you can get in now, and that way your sites will be able to start up as soon as possible. So again, I'm Drew with Learning Upgrade, joined by Vinod, and then also Todd from ProLiteracy. And I just want to thank everybody for attending today. And I'm excited to see how all of your sites, instructors, and students perform in the semester ahead.
Drew, we had 2 questions come in. Vicky wanted to know, what's the best webinar to watch for the tutors to understand about the reports and then help their students when help is needed?
Sure. So, I was actually just talking with a ProLiteracy New Readers Press rep. His name's Gary out of North Carolina. And so if any of you are from North Carolina or Massachusetts, he's the rep there. But we're actually going to be doing a webinar, I believe, next week on exactly that. So in a remote learning session, how do we get our tutors involved? Do we create accounts for every one of our tutors? And then they're going to add students from the master list to their class. And so I do have written documentation for that. And then either late this week or next week, Gary and I will be doing a webinar for one of our sites that are using Learning Upgrade. And so what I can do is I can record that, and then I'll be able to share it to our support page. So keep an eye out, learningupgrade.com/support. We have webinars posted there. And so what I'll do is that one is, answers exactly what you're looking for. It's for, volunteer tutors at a literacy center and how they can work in remote learning. But short version of it is we set our tutors up just like teachers. So they have an instructor account. And then what we do is we just have them add the students they work with to their class. So it's a small class. They might only have 1 or 2 students, but they can see those reports. They can see exactly how those students are doing, see the courses they're enrolled in. And that way, when they set up that time to meet one-on-one in person or virtually, they have all of the information. They might have 20 hours of assessment, and they can see exactly where they need to spend time with that learner.
Yeah, and another question, Drew, was can the volunteer tutors take the digital literacy course themselves to learn?
Absolutely. So, this is one of those things that Vinod and I, when we launched digital literacy, we were really excited to get it into the hands of the students. And it's just been incredible to see how many are using it. But we're actually getting more interest from teachers that want to take it. So we're working with different organizations to make this available, as a kind of a professional development tool to our instructors, to our tutors that need to use this. And absolutely, any of you that are in the challenge, all you need to do is have your tutors sign up as a student, essentially. They can go through that student self-enrollment just like anybody else would, and then they can just add digital literacy and work through it just as if they were a student. We don't mind at all. Anybody that has our free pilots, sign up as a student, add digital literacy, and you can work through it, no problem.
And Drew, just to follow up with the webinar recording you were talking about, I can ask Sarah, we have a list of all the attendees. So when you have that webinar and you load it up onto your resource page, if you want to send me a link, we can send out a follow-up email to all the people that attended so they have a direct link to that resource page.
Absolutely, that'd be great. Thank you, Todd.
All right, I think that might be it. Oh, Vinod, I think there's one more question from Vicky in the chat room, or I can just ask it. It says, when a tutor sees their student has difficulty on a lesson, how do they know what or how the information was taught? Do they watch the lesson?
Sure. So, that's one way they can do it, but we also have what we call teacher whiteboard accounts. And so with a teacher whiteboard account, it's an unlocked version of Learning Upgrade. So every course, every lesson, an instructor can quickly jump to any part of any lesson. And so that's one way to do it, is if you want to see exactly what the student saw, see the instructions, see the practice questions, you can use the teacher whiteboard. And then of course you can also, utilize our report. So if you're seeing a student struggling, the best thing to do would be to go to the individual course report for that course, and then you can see exactly how the student did. So you have those two options. One is to use the teacher whiteboard if you just want to see the instruction. And then if you want detailed reporting on how the student performed, then go to the individual course report.
All right, perfect. And I think that is all the questions that I see. So once again, thank you, Vinod and Drew, for sharing, and thank you everyone for attending. And I know that there will be a follow-up email sent out with a link to the recording of this webinar. And then, like we said, when Drew records that webinar that he was talking about, we'll send everyone a link to that as well. So thank you again. Everyone have a great day. Thank you, Vinod and Drew.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.